Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Signal Hour, where we find the signal within the signal. And of course, the signal these days is X. If Elon Musk hadn't bought Twitter at the time, now X, I don't think we're having this conversation. I think the world is very different. And X operates for me like a town square, right? People are out there shouting all kinds of things. Some of it's nonsense, but there's a lot of signal out there. And man, is it different than what we're seeing in the mainstream media, which is totally lost the plot, if the plot included, from time to time, telling the truth. I don't know what they're up to, but we are in a battle. That battle right now is for mind share. And there's two separate mind shares out there. One of them I'll call totalitarianism. It's about ideology. It's about conformity. It's about being absolutely violent and vicious to people who don't share that particular ideology, right? If you don't say exactly the right words, wrong pronouns, you don't denounce Elon, whatever the story is, get your car burned, lose your job, be attacked. That's one ideology. And the other is about people who I think care about truth. That's you, that's me. And here we are together. Evie will be in the studio in just a second, but this is today's Signal Hour, information you can't afford to live without. And let's start here. Gosh, let's start with this. The most mysterious thing ever. We hate Teslas. And this, I'm sure you've seen this. Mr. Guns and Gear here, who's one of my favorite follows over on Twitter, X, reported just recently that about this overt fire in Las Vegas where a whole bunch of Teslas were set on fire. So this is arson. This is terrorism by some definitions. It's attempting to achieve political aims with violence. That would be terrorism. I think too many things have been called terrorism. Too many things. And so I want to back that up. But this is certainly criminal activity, no question about it. It's arson, it's destruction of property. It's probably a variety of other crimes. Now, this has been going on all over the place. And the question is, well, why? How did this get started? That's the more interesting question in all of this. How is it that this group of people suddenly decided they hate Elon enough that they want to attack the object of one of Elon's many endeavors, right? He's rescuing astronauts, sending satellites up, delivering internet to the entire world with satellites. He's boring tunnels under Las Vegas. He's making electric cars. And just a few weeks ago, these electric cars were the things that some of these same people who are now burning them wanted to mandate that everybody have to buy because they wanted to save the climate. Now, how do you go from that ideology of believing you have to mandate climate solutions to burning those same solutions in literal blink of a cultural eye? It's kind of a strange thing when you really think it through. Think of the power of whoever has their hand on that rheostat, able to turn the object of people's ideological attention from A to B that quickly. It's real power. Golf claps. I can admire it on that front. Now, yeah, you know, yeah, well, it's they're being attacked in all kinds of ways here. Obviously, Joel Klessig saying Teslas are getting keyed as well. What a headache. And you know, who knows what's actually going on here. And hey, hello, Australia. I know Australia is struggling with some of the same things that say Canada, UK. Something about having your money with the royalty on it. I'm not clear what's happening, but we're all in a battle. And the battle, again, is between those who support this as a means of achieving an end and those of us who wouldn't. And I'm not on this side of things whatsoever. By the way, just to put this out, got to have some fun with this. Ben says here, been out all day putting Trump stickers on rioters' cars and then sitting back watching them destroy each other's cars. I got this from Evie. She sent this to me by DM last night. But carrying on, let's look at this. So Elon Musk was just on Fox News. He slammed the Democrats for violently attacking Tesla. This comes from Nick Sorter. There's the link down there. I follow Nick on X. He's always got good stuff. And the quote from Elon was, I always thought that Democrats were supposed to be the party of empathy and caring, and yet they are burning down cars, firebombing dealerships. There is some kind of mental illness going on because this doesn't make any sense. I think there are larger forces at work. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful, only done productive things. Who is funding and who is coordinating it? Because this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this, he said. Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Elon is busy peering into the machinery of government spending. That threatens a lot of people, and that threatens the very same people who might be these larger forces at work. Honestly, the people who perform these actions at the ground level, non-playable characters, NPCs. They're just programmed with the next current thing. Here you go. Hate people. Demand that people who don't vaccinate their children with the unworkable COVID vaccine. It doesn't work for kids anyway. It doesn't work really for anybody. In fact, it doesn't block transmission. In fact, it's for a variety of COVID that doesn't exist anymore, but you have to give it to your kids. Or these same people said, we're going to take your kids away, which is an act of extreme violence, of course. So a couple of things we can recognize right away. The Democrats have turned into the party of violence. They are the party of conformity and ideology. They are the party of, hey, we know how to destroy things really quickly. They're not really the party of building things. Certainly the party of parasitism and taking money into NGOs and spending it on useless stuff that everybody scratches their head at. Like, if you can really think, like, tell me an NGO that was funded in the last 8 years that has done something that the people of the recipient country would say unequivocally, that was awesome. Thank you. Thank you for our new library, our new port, our new airport, our new highway. Now, those aren't things you can say from US NGO activity. You can say those things about China, every one of those, and I can give you examples, multiple examples, but this is crazy. It is a kind of mental illness, but there are larger forces at work. This is not organic. So I've talked about this before. Stochastic terrorism is the name for this, right? That's when you use words and hint at things in the hope that somebody does something exactly like this. And then later you go, oh, that's a shame. All those cars got burned down. Sure would be a shame if more of that happened. That's an example of stochastic terrorism. This telegraphing of this is happening, and it's happening, and it's happening. And this is gonna get way worse than this if we allow it to continue. This is no question about it, a very bad thing that's happening here. So yeah, and imagine browse to web. Imagine if the media was calling out this derangement, all these depraved people on the left 24/7, right? Explaining this over and over again, talking about this. Do you remember the amount of how much airplay it got for the measles death that was out there? By the way, that one measles death, the parents have come out, they went on CHD television, they talked about it, and it turns out that the child A did not die of measles. I'm pretty sure of that. Pierre Corey just tweeted about that and had an interview about that. Died of pneumonia, but more importantly, didn't really actually die of pneumonia, died of a hospital error. You decide if that error was intentional or unintentional, but it was a withholding of medical care that would have been standard of care, and they didn't do it for some reason. You go figure. Okay, well, Evie has joined us. Hi, Evie.
Hi. Good afternoon. Good to see everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome. Sorry, it took me a minute here. Sliding in.
Just sliding in. Well, it's all good. Get your earpiece in there. We're going to carry on and keep going. So, so Evie, we've been talking about this, the global attack on Teslas here.
Oh yeah.
And I did show people. I got this from you. Sent this over, right?
Oh yeah. I thought that was really funny.
I think that's good. But by the way, it's just been revealed that there is actually a way of protecting your Teslas. It's been tried. They took it out, field tested it. It 100% prevents your Tesla from being attacked, and is putting one of these on.
Oh boy.
It creates a level of cognitive dissonance and confusion in the attacker. They don't know what to do. They tried it with just the Harris Waltz, but then that was 80% effective, but you got to complete effectiveness when you put the colors in there. That was the essential bit there.
Oh goodness.
Well, I mean, so take a look. So
wow.
Master Chief John, that's at Halo J17, again, linked down below. But yeah, look what he's noting here.
Watching legacy media tonight, the commentators keep referencing the quote protests at Tesla dealerships, but Americans see fires, broken glass, slashed tires, EVs vandalized, damaged and burnt EV charging stations, etc. Legacy media silence means this is acceptable protesting.
Okay, so
Wow.
let's just start with that though. So, to me, you can't possibly hate legacy media enough at this point.
Right.
They've led us astray. They're now shot through with whatever wokesterism that I don't think they even know that they're doing something wrong. But remember back in 2020, the George Floyd riots, and CNN's out there saying fiery but mostly peaceful protests, right? And there's like a wall of flames behind this guy. He's like,
yeah.
It's just the stupidest thing ever.
And
right?
then the January 6th, where it's like, worst
insurrection, worst day in American history.
Violent.
Worse than Antietam, Pearl Harbor,
really?
9/11.
Wow.
Those were some sacred velvet ropes, right? I mean,
yeah. No, it does seem to be that way. It's this strange double standard.
All right. So, but we got to talk about this more broadly too, because this is crazy. These are in the US, but what about this? This is Antifa leftists in Italy were marching and they saw a Tesla. And so they took time out of their protest march to destroy it. They're Italy. So
what?
Credibly, what has Elon done that's hurting Italy?
What has Elon done that's hurting Italy? You got me there. I honestly can't think of anything that has happened in the recent past that would make them that upset at anything, at any American, honestly, because it's their country. We're not doing anything to them directly that I'm aware of.
It's Italy.
I mean, come on. Wasn't that happening in Germany too?
But this speaks to what I'm getting at, which is that there's Germany. Sure, let's go there. Why not?
Oh my gosh. No.
Like literally, this is where Germany's at on this. 94% now say they won't buy a Tesla car because, of course, they have that one hand gesture at that one thing where he was going from his heart and talking about going off to the university, just whatever.
He's autistic and whatever. Yeah.
Maybe not the most well-considered hand gesture, but I can show you hundreds of celebrities who've done the same hand gesture, including Biden or whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, they just pick up on it. Frankly, it's retarded. It just is. And so they pick that up and then they run with it. But here we are now. What has Musk done to Germany that makes them this mad?
I don't know. Anybody else? I got nothing. Here, go down in the comments a little bit, just to the bottom.
Yeah, we're gonna need some help here, peeps.
Oh, seriously, what is going on? It is so bizarre.
Unplug the Teslas.
Politics says, oh, I can't read that actually. It's so small. Thank you.
That's a great ad, to be honest. Says Brandon. Well, I mean, but it's kind of insane now, right? So how does this actually happen? Now,
I have an idea.
Okay, you with your hand up.
I think honestly, it's the mainstream media. I think there are, as we've talked about before on this show, MK Ultra and other mind control programs have honestly just been rolled into our media channels and are utilized by mainstream media. And because how come this is only really happening where all of that propaganda gets shown, right?
Well, isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Like, is it happening up in Alaska with the native, or Antarctica? Like,
well,
is it happening where
it's happening in Canada?
Okay. But it's happening everywhere they have the internet to listen to these lies.
Not everywhere though. So, but let's go through Canada first, because I don't want to make that wider point. Right? Okay. So Breaking. Tesla's here removed as a participant from the 2025 Vancouver International Auto Show.
The decision was for, quote, the safety of attendees, exhibitors, and staff.
Was that their mental safety, emotional safety, or
you
physical
never can
safety?
Tell these days.
Aren't those the same thing?
Aren't they? Breaking Tesla Model Y intentionally set on fire in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The fire department discovered what appeared to be a Molotov cocktail underneath the vehicle when extinguishing the fire. This is terrorism.
Okay, so we got Canada, We've got Italy. We've got
Germany,
all over the US. How does this happen? Because the only thing that Elon ostensibly, besides rescuing astronauts, which is a whole separate story, right? Besides providing internet to the whole world, right? Reliable internet. All he's doing is digging into the US government's payment systems. That has to be the source of all of this. Whoever is actually threatened by that. Now, it's disturbing and alarming that they have shock troops that they can dial in so easily to what I call the next current thing. Well, I don't. I mean, somebody else did, right? But that's it, right? Like they dialed in. These same people just weeks ago, they had Ukraine flags. Now, that's a lost cause, so they dropped those flags. Weeks before that, they had Black Lives Matter posters everywhere. Weeks before that, it was
climate emergency.
Weeks before that, it was Me Too. Weeks before that, it was, get the shots, you granny killing nut job, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So whoever has their hand on this machine has figured out how to dial it seamlessly. I submit to you, they are the true enemy. That's the enemy we're up against here. It's not, these are NPCs. Everybody's doing this. You will wake up one day in bed, some point in the future going, I can't believe I was such a moron, right? We all have those moments, like we do stupid things as kids, right? The sad part is that a lot of the people doing this, they're not kids anymore. We're seeing people with gray hair, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, fully mind virused on this thing. And it's sad,
In fact, I think it's actually worse because a lot of the older generation grew up listening to like Walter Cronkite and like really believing, right, in the mainstream media as a credible source of news. And that's since obviously changed. So I think that in some ways, our elderly population is more at risk for some of this, right? Because they want to trust.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. Spady is saying that only 2%.
Wow, 70% said they still buy a Tesla. Only 2% said they would never buy one in Germany. That's interesting.
Okay, well,
so the polling might not even be accurate here.
The polling is never accurate. So yes, grain of salt. We should, we should have on a shelf behind us, Evie? Big lineup of salt grains, big giant cubes of salt. Because anytime you read anything that's a headline anywhere, it's wrong on some level.
It's true. They're nudging you. They want you to think this.
Yeah.
They want you to think that Tesla was removed as a participant.
So I don't know if you know this, but the Daily Wire, which is, the Daily Beast, which is all like anti-Trump, right? They talked to the author of a book, and the headline was that this author had found this really explosive thing, that he had solid evidence that Trump had talked the woman into his bed on Air Force One, right?
Really?
That's the headline.
Okay.
And then the woman came out. It's Representative Anna Luna, and she said, whoa. My husband was with me. I was pregnant. I had preeclampsia. And Trump, true gentleman, right in front of my husband, said, if you need to rest, you can use my bed. So she did. And he had his medical staff on call for her. And she had a very nice flight. And a week later, she was induced because she had preeclampsia.
Oh, wow.
That was the story. But the headline was, Trump talked a woman into his bed on Air Force One.
Oh, it's gross.
We're
so all about terrible. Salaciousness. We're kind of addicted to that in this country anyway,
I know, but we need truth. We really need truth as much as possible.
But until everybody longs for that, like you do and I do, and some of the people listening to this do, nothing's really going to change, is it?
No.
Sadly?
No, it really won't. But that's why we do what we do, okay? That's why we're here with these sorts of messages.
It's true.
Going out into the world, because we have to create a critical mass of truth. So look at this one. Claire Lehman. Claire Lehman. She's the editor of Quillette, and she just went full COVID Nazi retard. Okay?
I can't wait to hear what she says. She says, I'm sorry, but the world's wealthiest individual leveraging their wealth for political influence and power cannot claim victimhood when the inevitable backlash engulfs his business interests. The narcissistic entitlement here is off the charts.
Whoa. Before we go on, it's narcissistic entitlement to her to say, wow, people are violently destroying not my property, but the property of dealerships and private citizens. Right. Like you buy a Tesla, and it's narcissistic for him to think it's inappropriate for somebody who's mad at him to burn your car. What the F? She went full retard. this woman, I knew she was a mental midget. I knew that she was she's I feel sorry for her because you can tell she's got reasonably good looks and she's playing above her game and she's trying to be intellectual at a lot of times, but she has these hot takes that are so mentally broken that I know that she's just terrified by being discovered for being an imposter.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then people like went, blah, 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 and she's like, oh,
let me back that
yeah,
up.
let her clarify.
To be clear, property damage is obviously
wrong,
both morally and legally. I'm simply highlighting the narcissism involved in engaging in total warfare when expressing shock when it affects their business interests. You can't unleash chaos and expect to control where it stops. Nobody unleashed chaos, though.
I know.
That's BS.
Total warfare. He's like, yeah, total warfare is looking into the expenditures of the U.S. government
and trying to find out where our tax money is going.
All right, so let's rewind very quickly because this is important context.
Okay.
It was after the election, but before the inauguration, I saw Elon retweeting a lot of stuff. He was retweeting things from The Rabbit Hole, from Wall Street Silver, from Peter St. Onge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, wow, look at the debt situation in the U.S. government. This breaks. Mm-hmm. He very smart. Anybody who does this, because this is my work in the world, right? So I can show people charts and explain them.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows that the United States was on an unsustainable trajectory, which means, dude, this thing was going to crash and burn.
Right.
So like any intelligent person, Elon looks at that and says, wow, maybe we should not crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
And to not crash and burn, you would have to get this business of state under control, like a corporate restructuring, and say, wow, this corporation is dying.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do?
Well,
freeze expenditures, fire people. Sometimes baby goes out with the bathwater,
mm-hmm.
and figure out where you're hemorrhaging and tighten it the F up.
That's right.
That's what he came here to do. And that's what she's calling total warfare.
No, you're totally right. All that Elon was doing, all he was asking to do was to look at the United States as a business and to say the government.
Which it's never done.
Which is never done.
It probably should.
There haven't been,
yeah.
I know there haven't been audits and accountings into what's being spent and where that's going. And if the programs it goes to are actually worth the money that is spent on them. And there's been no auditing of that as far as we know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's frustrating because all he really did was to say, I've been a successful business owner. Let me bring my
Tony
expertise
Stark of
to
our
this
day. I mean,
shit show.
One of them, not just sort of successful,
Excuse
but
my language.
alleged, the wealthiest man in the world, multiple successful businesses.
Yeah, right.
Like for any one person,
no, that's
Starlink alone is going to be like your crowning, like unbelievable crown jewel. SpaceX would be alone your unadorned crown of jewel that nothing could touch.
You're right. Tesla alone.
He's done all of these things, right?
Yeah,
so not just sort
crazy.
of and plus he started this little thing called PayPal and stuff like that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. But so this is just one of the comments. Cynical Publius, who I do follow, said,
I disagree with your statement and believe it is incredibly fascist and destructive. That does not give me the right to light your car on fire. So he's responding to Claire.
Yep. I mean, it's just, it's patently stupid what she came up with, right? Just really dumb. But I think that she's speaking for that mind virus that Elon is talking about. But Claire got caught by it. And again, she came back like years after the whole COVID debacle and the magic jabs and all that, and had to come back and kind of, and gave a non-apology apology.
Did she give a mea culpa?
No, sort of. One of those, there weren't hardly anybody got it right. And it was fog of war and it was very difficult. And we all did the best we could with the information we had. And I'm like, no, you didn't, honey. You completely didn't know what the F you were talking about the whole time. And here she is back at it again. But please look here, if you will. Notice that. There's a lot of people out there who like this view. And of course we do. We have a very deeply narcissistic and entitled society. So again, this is one of those confession by projection things.
Yeah.
Right. She's just telling us that she has a lot of narcissistic entitlement. If you spot it, you got it kind of a moment. Maybe you could speak to that or something. But.
Yeah, no. Well, look at, we could definitely talk about that, but look at how much play this gets too. I mean, whatever the algorithms are designed to do, it definitely upplays sort of the loudest, screechiest voices, not the ones with the most wisdom or that are calling for respectful and mature thinking. right? But but this is what gets elevated in our discussions.
Yeah.
Which is disturbing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, what did they say? What in the UK? It might be the UK. I think it's like 1 in 3 kids hopes that someday they become a media influencer. Like that's their dream.
Yeah, let's all be media influencers. We'll just all influence each other.
To be doing this,
Yeah.
what Claire's doing, essentially.
I guess, yeah.
Or on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. But
anyway, another interpretation of this for me, Evie.
Mm-hmm.
This show is we have a long time before we get to the final act of this show. This level of illness here, I actually think it's generational. I think that our universities are going to take 80 years to fix. I think that this kind of thinking is almost impossible. I don't know that I don't know if it can be undone. I don't think it can. I think it's permanent. I call it the Sam Harris syndrome, right? Trump derangement broke his logic and compassion abilities, right? Broke them both, right? Remember, Sam Harris famously said, I hate Trump so much that I would actually accept dead children in Hunter Biden's basement if that meant keeping Trump out of the presidency, right? Literally said that.
Yeah, that is a syndrome. You're coining it here, aren't you? You heard it here first.
I'm not sure I coined it. There are no original ideas out there. All right, I'm going to switch, but this is, I think, this is the full scale warfare. This is the thing that Claire is really scared about, is this clip. I got to just run this again, because this is, for everybody watching this, I'll tell you, I had a whole alert about this for my subscribers. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. At Peak Prosperity, this is the beginning of the end. If Elon is right, he's talking about something here that is absolutely astonishing. If you've not heard this yet, or even if you had, it's only 1:17 seconds. You got to hear this.
One of the things you told me about is what you call magic money computers at the Treasury. So tell us about it, because I never heard of that until you brought that up.
Okay, so you may think that the government computers like all talk to each other, they synchronize, they add up what funds are going somewhere, and it's it's coherent. There's and that the numbers, for example, that you're presented as a senator, are actually the real numbers.
One would think.
They're not.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're not totally wrong, but they're probably off by 5% or 10% in some cases. So I call a magic money computer any computer which can just make money out of thin air.
Whoa. There's only one set of computers that can make money out of thin air, and that's the Federal Reserves. Now, banks make money out of thin air in the sense that when they make a loan and they loan you $100,000, they also create an offsetting $100,000 liability for you on the other end, which is their asset, which is the debt. So banks create money, but it's a double entry bookkeeping system. An asset and a liability are created at the same moment. That's modern banking. As John Kenneth Galbraith said, the process by which banks create money is so simple that the mind is repelled. It's a really weird thought. You study that, the crash course. I cover this in great detail. You can look at Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money. Awesome stuff, right? But that's banking. You create money and debt at the same time. The Federal Reserve is the only entity enabled by law to just create money out of nothing. So they have the magic money machine that can just make money. Okay. All right. Elon just said he found some other magic money machines.
That's magic money.
So how does that work?
It just issues payments.
And you said there's something like 11 of these computers at Treasury that are sending out trillions in payments?
They're mostly at Treasury. Some are, but there's some at HHS, there's one or two at State, there's some at DOD. I think we found now 14 magic money computers.
14, okay.
They just send money out of nothing.
They just send money out of nothing.
They're just creating it on the spot.
They are. That means there's two sets of magic money machines, one at the Federal Reserve, but one at the federal government. Now, I've heard people say it's possible Elon doesn't know what he's talking about here, that maybe he made a mistake.
Okay.
Right?
Do you think that could be true?
It's possible, but remember, Elon, his first company that he started, which would also be a crowning jewel for most people, is PayPal.
That's right.
PayPal dealt with the ACH system, dealt with the banking system. It was fundamentally a finance company, 100%.
Right. It was all about that.
Yeah. So that he doesn't know what he just said drops down the list of probabilities a little bit. I think he knew exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Now, if he did, that's one of the most explosive revelations you could possibly have in all of history. It's giant.
Yeah, I know. This made you really upset a couple days ago.
It did. My hair was on fire.
I know.
Well, because I mean,
but it's a big deal. The implications are enormous.
So imagine that we don't know how much money is actually out there right now, because the Federal Reserve says, oh, there's X, but is there X plus Y because we have these other magic money machines?
Mm-hmm.
Is it actively looping through the Treasury General account, the TGA at the Fed? So it is all accounted for at some point?
Right.
We don't know. But here's the point about that, right? We got to talk about this real quick. The Federal Reserve has never been audited, ever. Now, they say they audit it, but what happens is the Federal Reserve hands statements to PricewaterhouseCoopers, or KPMG, I think does it. And KPMG says, those numbers add up. That's it. There's never been a transaction level audit. And in particular, the GAO is forbidden by law from looking at where the Fed is spending and sending money overseas. Now, why would you want to send money overseas? Well, there's banks over there. There's also dictators. There's reasons. It's never a good time to not, keep an emergency hidden because there's a dictator to pay off. There's a nuclear bomb that has to be bought on the black market. There's some reason. But the point is, as of yesterday, we no longer know how much money is in the system. And that is now a worldwide known phenomenon. And are our trade partners going to be accepting dollars under those circumstances? Now, these things take time to percolate. So that's why, Evie, I sent this out as these alerts. So that subscriber alert, by the way, take a look.
There's your hair on fire.
Yes, this one with my hair on fire here.
And then it got put out.
Thank you, Barry. Yeah, it's smoking now.
I like that.
Well, this is how I roll, right? So first, this startling revelation, I had to really think it through. I put out a whole 45-minute piece down there. There's a big piece of writing around it. And then we have over 280 really thoughtful comments that have already been dropped as of this morning by people, some of them with 30 years in the payment system, who understand bank messaging, challenging this, saying he must be wrong, here's why. So that's what we have to do when we get a big piece of information like this, is really wrestle with it. And we tap into the community of experts we have to begin to make sense of it, right? It's really important. And then it gelled overnight. And then I put out this another 53 minutes of, okay, let's unpack this. Let's go in deeper. What does this mean? But the implications of this are extraordinary, extraordinary. And then on top of that, we got the JFK files dropped. Bing! Squirrel, right?
I wonder which is the squirrel for which.
We don't know. We're not sure. Which is the real squirrel? It's tough.
Goodness.
We don't know anymore. Anyway, I would invite anybody who's interested in this stuff and understanding how to prepare for the future. That's what we do at Peak Prosperity. And we do it behind a paywall for a variety of reasons, not least of which is so we can say exactly what's on our minds without any filters, with any worry about, a Google spider crawling across it and taking our words out of context next year.
And it's a tribe of people that are actually, if you want to be anonymous back there, you can be.
Oh, absolutely.
And, it protects your identity to whatever degree you want to do that. And you can have honest discussions with other like-minded individuals, some of whom are very well informed about what's going on as well.
Yeah. And it's time to get resilient.
It really is.
Listen, if you can't, those who have ears to hear and eyes to see can tell you that right now there are things changing so rapidly that have such profound implications that you're going to have to become resilient. And that doesn't just mean beans in the basement or bullion in the bank. It means emotionally, spiritually, socially, social capital. You got to have skills. You have to understand what's going on. Protecting your wealth is going to be really important. But how do you protect your wealth when it's possible? We don't need the measuring stick turns out to have not even been made out of rubber. It's been made out of fantasy digits. Like if this raccoonery has been going on, Evie, for 70 years, say 50 years. Let's take it from the moment JFK is assassinated, right? 1963. Okay. That was the moment where the United States raccoons
they took over.
Hey, I'll tell you what this means. No rules, right? And so we've had a non-rules based system. To think that our money system operates by rules, but just somehow we broke all the other rules is dumb, because money is power. So if that's the case, the question is, since 1963, which is 61 years, how much damage could have been done in 61 years of self-interested raccoons dipping their little fingers into that pie?
Ooh,
just a question.
How much damage? Yeah, that would take a few lifetimes to measure, I'm sure.
It would. So next segment here, Democrats imploding. I don't know how we're going to get through all my stuff today that I put together. Let's listen in to this.
Good morning. Welcome Inside Politics Sunday. I'm Manu Raj. First up this morning, a brand new exclusive CNN poll that paints a brutal reality for Democrats as they struggle to mount a unified opposition to President Trump. Americans' favorable views of the Democratic Party's brand are at a record low, just 29%. That's compared to 36% for Republicans. It is the lowest ever recorded for Democrats in CNN polling going back more than 30 years. As you can see, the party's numbers dropping a staggering 20 points in just 4 years. The CNN SRSR's poll also found 57% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning voters are more interested in seeing their party leaders stop the GOP agenda.
And there we have it, right? So this is astonishing to me. So what the Democrats did has given them the worst polling in 30 years, and what they're doing is doubling down on those exact same things.
Great.
I
know
mean,
which direction this train's headed in.
Well, I'm astonished because you think at some point self-interest rears its ugly little head.
Right.
And you go, I know we were on the wrong track, and we may have to admit we were wrong. And people are telling us they don't like us both in polls and at the polls. I know. Let's just keep doing that anyway, because those people must all be wrong. Is that what they're thinking?
I mean, do you think they even are free thinking at this point? That magic dial you were talking about that mainstream media seems to have, where they can just dial in whatever they want at any point. I mean, they must have some inside track where these people are, spoken to or communicated with. And I mean, how could it be that they're doubling down? It's not based in any kind of logic at all. It's
flabbergasting, like jaws work, but words don't come out. Like, how could they be doing this at this time? It's weird. So it's whatever their fealty to this ideology is, it's more powerful than self-interest. That's the definition of a cult.
There you go.
Right there.
That's it.
Okay.
That last statement.
So that's what I think we're dealing with here, and we have to treat it accordingly. Now, this is interesting. So this is a perfect example. This is a woman speaking about, the Department of Education cuts that are going to happen. And just listen to the argument. She can't be honest. So if she wanted to be honest to me, she would say, my paycheck is at risk here, and this really makes me unhappy. Okay. That would be the honest statement. But instead, we get this.
And when they cut half the people, it's like evisceration by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. So you want to do this? Have the fight with us in Congress. Let's make sure we get the issues out there. I'm so mad. I'm spitting mad about this because it's hurting the people who can't vote. Children don't vote. Let's not take away their opportunity.
Let's not take away their opportunity. Oh, no. Evie, what would happen, do you think, if we saw that they actually cut the people of the Department of Education? Think of the bad things that could happen. Think of all the bad things that could happen. Think. First off, the Department of Education has spent over $4 trillion since its inception, right?
Wow.
$4 trillion.
That's a huge
in inflation adjusted dollars. But annual budget peaking at $268 billion in 2024. $268 billion. So we've spent $4 trillion since inception. Oh.
Okay. Our scores are terrible.
Absolutely dead flat reading scores. Nothing's happened. That's $4 trillion and nothing has happened. Oh,
okay.
wait. That's reading. What about arithmetic?
It's crapping out.
Nothing. This is the horror that Elon is unleashing. He is saying, maybe we should do something about this. Let's not spend money that gives no return. And then you get that harpy on there. Think of the children. Whenever they do that, I reach for my wallet and I close. I'm like, plug my ears because it just has nothing to do with the children. Like if she said, think of the children, she would say, and here's our plan for not being this miserable in the future. Here's how we could spend money and not have absolutely zero return for that money.
It's true. And all we've been really doing for the last 20 years, as far as I can tell, is we've been training children how to take tests, not how to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's delivered predictable results. They're
exactly.
there. Oh, just a thing of beauty there. Okay. This is really important. And Evie, I'm going to want to read a couple of these out because this is my thing. This is my thing.
You go.
This is my thing. Okay. So COVID came from a lab. Fauci knew it and everybody did too. And they all lied to us about it. Okay. So quick background for those of you who don't know, I did a lot of COVID coverage. On day 102, May 4th, 2020, I put out this thing called Lying Virologists. And in there, I showed the genetic evidence, the PRRA, the furin cleavage site that clearly demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt that this thing came from a lab. Okay, very simple. And so the New York Times, just on March 16th, comes out and finally arrives in the complete passive voice and says this, we were badly misled about the event that changed our lives. The event that changed our lives. Okay. All right.
Wow, that's
passive. Really bad. So this is by Zeynep Tafaki. I don't know how to pronounce that, apparently.
You want to read that?
Yeah. So
you go.
So Zeynep here, by the way, I have a bad taste in my mouth about Zeynep because she, the entire time during COVID, was just bad-mouthing conspiracy theorists and running interference for Fauci and just basically doing the whole deep state. Everybody's got to line up and get the magic holy jab. And so that's who she's been her whole stupid career. But now finally, the New York Times has decided, wow, the winds have shifted around. Let's see if we can get on the other side of this storm. So she says here, quote, since scientists first began playing around with dangerous pathogens in laboratories, the world has experienced 4 or 5 pandemics, depending on how you count. One of them, the 77 Russian flu, was almost certainly sparked by a research mishap. Some Western scientists quickly suspected the odd virus had resided in a lab freezer for a couple decades, but they kept mostly quiet for fear of ruffling feathers, right? Yet in 2020, she says here, when people started speculating that a laboratory accident might have been the spark that started the COVID-19 pandemic, they were treated like kooks and cranks. I was. Many public health officials and prominent scientists dismissed the idea as a conspiracy theory, insisting that the virus had emerged from animals in a seafood market in Wuhan, China, which, by the way, editorially was the stupidest conspiracy theory ever heard of. A bat had to fly in winter from 1,000 kilometers away, get up to a food market, somehow have an orgy with another animal. Somehow that didn't spill over to any other animals, but just jumped straight to a human, and the rest is history. It was the dumbest, stupidest piece of scientific conjecture since like the worst grade B sci-fi movie you've seen where the plot doesn't make any sense. It was just that dumb, right? And she says here, when a nonprofit called EcoHealth Alliance lost a grant because it was planning to conduct risky research into bat viruses with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, research that, if conducted with lax safety standards, could have resulted in a dangerous pathogen leaking to the world. No fewer than 77 Nobel laureates and 31 scientific societies lined up to defend the organization. You want to know why we lost faith in science? Because of those 77 Nobel idiots and the 31 scientific societies. They dropped the ball. It was not scientific. It was politics. It was ideology. It was anything but logic, common sense, and stuff. Okay? All right. Now, this is what I put out back in that May 2020, because I was reacting to this Nature article, The Proximate Origin of SARS-CoV-2, which was put out by these folks here, Christian Anderson, right? A virologist at the Scripps Institute, Andrew Rambeau, right? Another virologist, Ian Lipkin, Eddie Holmes here from Australia. You're in the mix now, Eddie, Australia, and Robert Gary. These 5 jamokes here went out and said, oh, it has SARS-CoV-2 had to have come from nature somehow, and here's why. And it couldn't possibly have come from a lab, they said, even though we now know that their private emails, they were saying, dude, this thing totally looks like it came from a lab, right? So they were out in public saying one thing, but in private saying another. And out in public, they were saying no possible way, but they put it right in their paper right here. This PRA, there it is, PRRA, this furin cleavage site. It doesn't exist in any other related viruses. It is the furin cleavage site that gives it all its pathogenicity. This was just obvious at the time, right? So this is possibly the most truly despicable take. This is how Zeynep Tufekci and her editors at the New York Times decided to characterize all of this. She said, well, when you review it all in hindsight, it's not hard to imagine how the attempt to squelch legitimate debate may have started. Some of the loudest proponents of the lab leak theory weren't just earnestly making inquiries, they were acting in terrible faith, using the debate over pandemic origins to attack legitimate, beneficial science, to inflame public opinion, to get attention. That's it. All these people out there, right? Charles Rixley, the Drastic crew, all of these people like myself, who are just out there attempting to make sense of what happened with this thing that was now shutting down, global pandemic being used to destroy my freedoms, putting people in jail, kicking people out of their jobs. This thing that came out that we could have understood by understanding where it came from, how to treat it better or how to think about it, that was actually, we were just doing it to get attention. That's it. That's the only way Zainab can possibly understand why somebody like myself might have looked at the data and come up with something, because she says, the only way I can understand this personally is you must have been an attention whore, Chris. Well, confession by projection again. I mean, does that mean, I'm just so mad about this. They were using the debate to attack legitimate beneficial science to get attention.
That doesn't even look like an adult human. It looks like a Doogie Howser, a small child.
Yeah, it looks like something, you buy from China for purposes. I don't know what. For scientists and public health officials, circling the wagons and vilifying anyone who dared to dissent might have seemed like a reasonable defense strategy. That's what she's going to. It was just a reasonable defense strategy. You know, this is unbelievably terrible, awful spin. It's a despicable take. I cast shame on this person. I cast shame on the New York Times, shame on them all. In fact, I decided to rewrite their headline for them. There, that's better.
We were badly lied to about the fact that COVID came from a lab.
Right?
That is better.
That is better. But if only there had been clues. So I was putting this together, Evie, and I'm a little blast from the past. You know what's most important? Body language tells all. So this is an exchange from 2021 with Dr. Fauci and Rand Paul. This is awesome.
These are painful.
Let's listen in. This is, again, just like 30 seconds of awesomeness.
Pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain of function research was going on in that lab and NIH funded it.
That is
not
not
get away from it. It meets your definition and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one.
Look at him.
He's stressing out.
He is stressing the F out. But of course he is, because he's lying. And by the way, we just found out from Robert Malone last week that that gentleman right there, Fauci, is in Italy working with the same company that came up with the COVID vaccine, doing God knows what next.
Great.
Ready to unleash some next monstrosity upon us all. If these people don't go to jail, we're getting more of this, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen again.
Yeah, there's going to be another pandemic and we're all going to have to deal with it and the fallout from it.
And the next one could be way worse.
Yeah, they're playing around with like hemorrhagic fever, viruses and nasty things.
Really awful stuff. So the New York Times article goes on to note some things. It noted the proximal origins authors I just showed you, right? That's Lipkin and Christian Anderson, all that. Christian Anderson wrote in just 2 days before they came up with the drafted that paper that said it couldn't possibly have come from a lab. He wrote in a Slack communication to another person. He said, the lab escape version of this is so friggin' likely to have happened because they were already doing this type of work. And that molecular data is fully consistent with that scenario, that PRA site, right? 2 days later, and an $8 million research grant from the NIH later. And
that's what it is.
Next thing you know, he changed his tune entirely, but he lied to us. That's what the New York Times is trying to cover up and say, but you people who pointed that out at the time, you attention whores.
He should be held accountable.
Absolutely, he should.
He should be.
Oh, absolutely.
He shouldn't be able to walk around and do whatever the heck he wants in this world. And I'm not trying to be a stochastic terrorist over here.
Well, and there was this
incite violence.
There was this huge Peter Daszak. There was this big letter in the Lancet signed by all these top scientists, but not Peter himself. But he wrote the letter. But then they all signed their name to it. It's like 51 former intelligence officials saying the laptop isn't real. Is one of those letters, right? And so, but he obscured his involvement. But then that middle bullet point, the scientists then also worked behind the scenes, and they misled the New York Times science writer Donald McNeil. But it wasn't just Donald McNeil that got misled. I also pointed this out at the time when this came out. It was also Carl Zimmer, science writer for the New York Times, and Benjamin Mueller. New research points to Wuhan market as pandemic origin. This is a 2022 article. You guys got played. And I pointed it out, like the science behind this, the article they were pointing out was the stupidest science I've ever seen. It was like you could drive 3 trucks through it and not scrape any paint off the side. The hole was so big. It was bad. So these guys, Carl, Benjamin, y'all are morons. Like you should not write about any science ever again unless it's like how to make silly putty in the kitchen with a 3-year-old. Okay. Like, because you guys, you are morons, like 0 critical thinking skills. I hope I'm being very clear about this. Okay. And by the way, this is where SARS-CoV-2 came out. It's this little thing way over here. This is like a family tree. This is like 23andMe, right? And all of a sudden you're like you're looking at a child in a family and they're here, and everybody on many generations back does not have any genetic characteristics shared with that child. You're starting to think to yourself, maybe this kid's adopted. You know, that's the only thing you can think. It has no close lineages, right? And now there's all these people after the New York Times article, all these bots came out. They're all over Twitter saying, oh, there are sarbecoviruses. Many of them have the furin cleavage sites. Yeah, these ones that are in rabbits that are like 50 generations away from anything that could infect a bat or a human. Like, that's like saying, oh, Chris, you don't understand. Some primates have tails. They're very closely related. Those are called monkeys, okay? Not even apes, totally different thing, right? Anyway, we're just being treated to the same stupidity.
Yeah, that's crap.
It's just dumb, right? But then we find out, Evie, this.
Oh.
Paul Thacker writing here, and he does great work at Thacker PD on Twitter, and I know him. He also is a Brownstone Fellow. The British government released a 2020, March 2020 classified dossier that said it is now beyond reasonable doubt that COVID-19 was engineered in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This came from MI6. A labor minister rubbished that pandemic theory, and the rest is history. But they knew this and decided in the UK, instead of going forward with this and saying, wow, this came from a lab, let's deal with this. Instead, they locked everybody down, and then they killed a lot of old people with midazolam and morphine. That's the midazolam murders. Very dark period of history. So I think it's fair for us to begin to ask the question, what really happened here? Because they lied, they funded it, and when it came out, it wasn't like they were surprised and said, oh, well, now that it's happened, we're embarrassed, let's cover it up a little bit. They were ready.
They were ready.
With lockdowns and with magic holy jabs. They said, remember, they're like, oh, we got an email from China with a string of letters for this virus, and 48 hours later, we had a vaccine. It's like, no, that's not what happened.
No,
those things take years to develop.
And what was it? The 201, Event 201.
Event 201.
It all stinks to high heaven in terms of them pointing to the idea that they knew and they planned it. It
was an operation, though. And it was an operation that principally was waged against the West. Right? Do you remember waking up every day and reading about how terrible Africa was dealing with COVID? Like, nope, didn't happen. You know why? They just went on with their lives, went out into the sun,
or
got
India.
vitamin D, nothing happened.
Yeah.
You know, again,
about India either.
Yeah, not really. No, India seemed to do okay, right? But the same thing. Notice now, I could scour like crazy and I won't find one incident of a Tesla being burned in Africa or in Thailand or in China or in India. This is a Western psychosis. The Tesla burnings and what we just talked about with the COVID scam, these are connected events. Somebody turned the dial of psychosis within the Western societies because the job here is to destroy the West.
Right. So you think that people in those other countries just aren't hearing about it?
No, they're not being targeted. If they were being targeted, they'd be just as nuts too. I think the machine has not turned the eye of Sauron upon them.
Yeah, there it is.
All right. So now we got to turn real quick because I see the time. This is going to turn into the Signal afternoon if I'm not careful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. I got swatted. You may not know about this if you've been just reading about anything in the mainstream media. But
you
this
haven't
is a big,
gotten swatted, thankfully.
I have not gotten swatted. That's why it's in quotes. The I got swatted refers to. So here's Matt Van Swoll. This guy's formerly a Democrat who lives in Western North Carolina, lost the faith after Western North Carolina was treated shabbily and miserably by the Democrats after the hurricane. Helene came through and ruined his part.
He says, in the interest of transparency, I've decided to release video footage of the swatting of my home at 2 a.m. last night. Please watch and understand how this could have gone horribly wrong if this was you and your home. This is not a joke. This is domestic terrorism.
So if you watch this, the cop pulls up and then his gun is drawn. Right?
I saw that.
His finger's off the trigger, but his gun is drawn. So think about how this could go bad if you don't have a Ring camera, you don't know, suddenly there's some pounding on your door and you show up with a gun because that's what you might do.
And they shoot you because
you have a gun. Right? That's the point of swatting. Swatting is an attempt to hurt somebody. Okay. Well, here's an InfoWars journalist. Chase.
Chase says swatted for a second time in 12 hours. Here's the video.
Oops, journalist. I clearly did not. The edit department is. We're gonna have to sack. We're gonna have to sack somebody in our edit department. Okay.
Is this a video?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just took screenshots. But again, so Chase gets swatted second time in 12 hours. So swatted and then swatted again. Now this is weird to me because when you call in a swatting operation, what that means is that you would call the police up and say, "Help! Help! I'm being attacked at my home.
Hurting me."
Yeah, Evie's hurting me. My name is Chase Geyser and I live at, and you give an address, right? And then the police would go to that address because they think violence is being committed or about to be committed. And they come there because it's an urgent situation. What's weird to me is that phones are all traceable now.
True.
Right? How do you make that call
on 911
without it being complete? Like, how does the NSA not know who that is? Right?
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah, they could totally bag whoever's doing that.
Don't you think?
Or at least reference, like, if they live anywhere near that person.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
Weird. So the info Chase got, so did Owen Schroyer just this morning. I wake up to this.
What?
Just got swatted. Look at him out there. But look who's showing up. Look at these guys. They are serious. They are ready to rumble, right? They've got, like, the guns are drawn, muzzles are up, and he's got to come out and he's got to back out slowly and hands up and all that. So Owen got swatted.
Wow.
Joe Pagliarulo got swatted on March 13th.
Wow. I did not know so many people were dealing with this.
Gunther Eagleman got swatted on around March 13th. Benny Johnson last summer got swatted. Juanita Broderick got swatted.
What? Really?
Yep.
Huh.
They said that there were 2 masked men inside and people had been shot. So police show up. That was on March 17th. So the FBI is going to finally go after those responsible, hopefully. We'll see. Good. Nick Sorter, his family got swatted. A dozen cops showed up at his dad's door. So they sent him to whoever these people are, figured out.
They're terrorizing his family.
Yep.
Wow. Do you want me to read any of these or no? You're just going through them quick.
Well, we'll just go through them, but it's interesting. He says, before calling in the SWAT, this dumb shit, I hope they found out who it is, sent my sister an email calling me a Nazi, of course, and here's that exchange. Your brother, Nick Sorter.
Why is your brother basically a Nazi? Is he just a dude who can't hack it in life, so he got a real estate license and now his personality is being a piece of shit? Do your parents not care, or are they where he gets this insanity from?
Right.
Wow.
And so this is the insanity, as Nick said, Melania Trump is what a real first lady looks like, not a power-hungry witch like Jill Biden. So that obvious Nazi statement right there.
Oh, yeah.
Obvious. The parallels are just, let's not belabor it. This is just be stupid of us if we did. So how about this one?
He goes on to say, so if my dad would have been killed last night after these pieces of shit swatted him, it would have been my fault simply because they don't like what I post. This is the logic of the radical left. This is what we're up against. These people are beyond sick.
Okay. So
wow.
Look what SGT 602 wrote there and really consider this, what it means.
Okay. So if your dad had died because of you, you wouldn't have taken any responsibility. You're asking for, quote, illegals to have their doors kicked in when that friendly fire also happens to Americans who look like you. You're not a victim. You are the reason. Stop playing victim.
Okay, so that's the logic of the left here. It's like, well, there are these people in our country illegally, and they're going to be exported.
Mm-hmm.
So if your dad gets his door kicked down, it's just the same thing.
Yeah, and he deserved it.
And he deserved it because you support these people being exported from the country. This is insane.
This is some crazy tit for tat 6th grade mentality.
It's crazy.
It's really immature though, Chris. Like,
and by the way, just what's kind of interesting is that somebody else had noted that every single one of those people we just talked about also has been, let's say, dismissive or even against the Ukraine war. So let's consider also the possibility that Ukraine, we know that they've been fingered potentially as being involved in blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, but they also have been conducting bombings and extrajudicial, there've been assassinations worldwide. Is it beyond us to think that there's some angry Ukrainians somewhere in Kiev, like calling in swatting hits on people?
I mean, I don't
it's a
think
possibility.
So. It is possible.
It's always a possibility. But at any rate, Nick is happy because, not just an FBI agent showed up, but actually the SAIC showed up at his house. And so that's actually fairly high level.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
That's great.
And by the way, so that Ukrainian thing, so I went to SGT 602 and I took a look and, oh, look.
Sweden stands with Ukraine. You are not only fighting for your freedom, but also for all of Europe's.
Slava Ukraini, right? Okay. All right. Okay.
And as far as I know, I mean, I know Ukraine is fairly complicated, but could it be that, like those that are angry at Elon for looking into things in this country, that people in Ukraine are upset that the gravy train there might stop?
Oh, anytime you end the gravy train, there's somebody who's willing to kill you over it. That's the sad part of this world we live in.
Yeah, no, I think that's what's going on. It's like a giant mob.
It is.
Situation here.
It is. Yeah. Somebody said it earlier, the comments too long ago, but just if you want to understand what we're up against here, I just rewatched The Sopranos, all 9 seasons or however many seasons are.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good one.
Slava Raytheon.
Good one, Jonathan. You mean, all right.
That was a good one.
That's awesome.
You gotta laugh.
All right. So get this. So we've seen all these judges just intervening and stopping things, right? And I loved how Bill Holt put it here. Go ahead.
He says, let me see if I got this right. When Biden mandated that we wear stupid ass paper masks, no judge intervened on our behalf. When Biden mandated that we get vaccinated or lose our jobs, no judge intervened on our behalf. But when President Trump mandates deportations for criminal illegals and gang members, he can be stopped and by a piece of shit judge somewhere. I don't know who TF Judge James Boasberg is, but I know I didn't vote for him. Either we have a president or we don't. Either we have a functioning government or we don't.
This is crazy. This is crazy time stuff that's going on here. So there's a whole piece. It's a whole section. I could have called it the Lawfare section or, judicial activists, but these judges are busy trying to stop things all over the place, like district court judges.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really insane. But I have a 2-step process for spotting authoritarian behavior. First thing is they actually do it themselves, and then they accuse you of doing it.
Oh, the projection thing.
There
it is.
It's
you
just how it is.
You got it.
Right? So where was the judge stopping this stuff? Biden flew plane loads. They flew them straight in. They didn't come over the border because they snuck in and we missed him at night. They flew them in, and we know this. The Border Patrol had plane flights coming out of Mexico and South America and Central America. They flew people in, and those are the numbers. Miami got 326,000 illegal people flown into the country illegally. Where was the judge stopping that?
On the taxpayers' dime.
And Trump's trying to fly a plane load of them back out, and the judge is like, "Oh, you got to stop right away."
We couldn't possibly.
That's okay.
It's insane. Remember when we were flying around?
It's more than insane.
Oh, it's yeah.
I think I think this is where we find out who our enemies actually are. Okay. We have to start calling it like it is. Judge Boasberg is not just some guy who's a little bit deluded and he's just sort of a little bit crazy. That guy also is the judge who was instrumental in using a really bizarre portion of the Sarbanes-Oxley law about corporate meetings that then he applied to the J6 protesters and then generously interpreted it to charge them with a felony that could be up to 20 years in prison for interfering with official proceedings, right? Which was supposed to mean violently interfering with an official proceeding. In this case, they were walking in the velvet ropes, or just in some cases, they were just on the lawn, but that was close enough to interfere. So he was the guy that did that. And also his daughter receives money fighting the deportations of these illegal gang members. Under both of those bases, he's disqualified and should have recused at a minimum, but he still carries on anyway.
Yeah, he shouldn't be a judge.
No, he shouldn't be a judge.
I mean,
once you demonstrate you don't have the capability to even remotely execute the duties of your office,
that's right.
You shouldn't be doing that.
You can't be biased like that.
You can't.
You have to know how to interpret things, regardless of whatever the war garble is in your mind.
Yeah. So Trump trying to fly a plane load of these people, one plane load back out, this judge is all over it, but Biden flying 4 years of flying these 326,000. You know how many plane loads it takes to get 326,000 people in, right? Look at our own Boston. We're in Massachusetts. 4,879 people flown in, dropped off at Logan, and who knows what.
And then what?
Well, our tax dollars for state residents went to feeding them, housing them.
Oh, yeah. Meanwhile, our bridges are falling apart.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you can't get any money for other
stuff isn't getting done.
No. It's
we couldn't possibly.
But that's what we're up against. So I think it's just time to recognize that this represents, really, honestly, this is the soul of the country. And so when you have a Claire Lamont, saying, oh, you can't commit unspeakable violence like Elon's
right.
just trying to expose the money behind this, and Trump's trying to shut it down.
Yep.
And there are people out there saying violently, that pisses us off.
Right.
We're going to fight you tooth and nail for you not to undo our handiwork, which was bringing 20, 30 million illegal people into our country, which, by the way,
bringing instability.
They don't have anything so this happened. So in my own town, right? One of our town elders here had said at one point, Chris, I really hope, that with your ideology, you can consider the plight of the disadvantaged people, Guess what? Classic NPR listening kind of guy, liberal, elderly. You know how many of these people he has in his own house? You know how many of these people he directly helps? You know how many people he insists it's my duty to help? All of them, right? It's classic. This is just how these people are wired.
Mm-hmm.
That's socialism. I want to spend your money on the things I think are important.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a bad person if you try and stop me.
That's right. That's right. Well, to your point earlier, right? I mean, this is a juxtaposition that we're all in, because you were saying the people that are behind the scenes managing that dial, right? Dialing these things in and causing this insanity. Those are the people that are our actual enemies, right? But it's a tough position to be in, because you also have to set a boundary, like all these people that are proving themselves to be untrustworthy at best, right? People in public positions, judges, judgeships, all the rest. I mean, you have to stand up for something and say, no, that's enough. Sort your mind virus out somewhere else. But you can't be a civil servant and be under that influence. You can't do that. It's just a tough thing, because you made the point already in this presentation that, somebody is behind the scenes pulling strings too.
Well, they are. It's what has been revealed is actually fairly astonishing. I'm a pretty cynical guy. I'm pretty tapped in. I've been aware of these things for a long time, but even I didn't know just how blatant the corruption was, right? And by corruption, is this a legal definition? Possibly. But I mean, the corruption is, I'm a Democratic senator or congressperson or a rhino, and I put $4 billion, $7 billion into Stacey Abrams' hands, and then X millions of that flow back into my campaign coffer. That's corruption, right? Full on. That's me harvesting money from the taxpayer so that I can benefit and some of my friends can benefit. But honestly, nothing good happens for the rest of the country. It's complete waste on that front, right? Stacey Abrams buying a small town in Georgia, a couple of freezers is not my definition of progress, right? But that's where we're at. And so I really think that's actually the situation at this point, is that we're up against people who, in this particular case, Evie, right? Claire Lehman saying Elon's engaged in total warfare, right? It's not total warfare. He's just saying, hey, can we just look at how this money is being spent and maybe do better? And yes, we can do better. But to somebody who's been a parasite on the system the whole time, just tapped in and sucking blood out of it the whole time, it feels like total warfare. Now, here's the thing. You know as well as I do the rule of narcissists, which is that narcissists will ride over every boundary you have. That's gleefully, right? You have to be okay with your 5-year-old sharing a bathroom with a grown man who's dressed like a woman. You have to be okay with them like seeing genitals while they're being read to by a cross-dressing, mash clinger, thing, but not as attractive, right? You have to be okay with all that. And as soon as you say, no, I'm not okay with that, they say, I'm being attacked. Look at the violence inherent in the system. I'm being attacked.
See, we are being,
and so they
discriminated against.
This is the rule of narcissists. They ride over every one of your boundaries. And as soon as you say no, they perceive that as an attack, but they legitimately do. Right? To them, you're attacking them because you've stopped them from violating you.
That's right. And they get off on that on some level.
Total warfare. That's what we got here. And of course, Claire saying, oh, the narcissistic entitlement off the charts tells me exactly everything I need to know about who she actually is in this particular context. That's who she is. So good news, they tell us who they are. What?
Skinny says, yeah, NPR is kind of like the devil with your grandpa's voice. I like that.
It is nefarious, but with a nicer voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and
Squirrel.
That's fine. I love squirrels. Yeah, it goes deeper and wider than campaign contributions. The corruption, it really is vast. It really is.
So,
yeah.
I'm sure you have a takeaway.
Well, I do. And it's sort of related to this idea here, which is, when will the economy collapse? So that's what we're headed towards here. We're headed towards some sort of a collapse, right? And we're headed there because we just had no adults in charge for too long. An economy is a very simple thing, right? An economy at the end of the day is you earn stuff and you spend stuff. Stuff is coming in, stuff is going out. You have an income or a job or salary and a bank account, and you have expenditures, right? And either more is coming in than is going out, or more is going out than is coming in. One of these things is okay and one is not. For far too long, our economy has been hemorrhaging. The United States has a trade deficit right now that for goods alone is $1.2 trillion. 1.2 trillion. If that was a country, it'd be like the 15th largest economy in the world. It's pretty magnificent. Our trade deficit is 1.2 trillion. So if the rest of the world said, hey, you have magic money machines and we don't want dollars anymore, what would happen to the United States if all of a sudden we didn't have $1.2 trillion of awesome goods flowing in? And you know what we offset that with? Dollars. So people are like, oh, we don't export anymore. Oh, yeah, we do. We export dollars, or more principally, we export the debt of the United States denominated in dollars. We call them U.S. treasuries. Okay, fine. What if the rest of the world doesn't want treasuries anymore? They're like, no, thanks. Well, either we lose $1.2 trillion of goods that came in. And by the way, that's a lot of stuff that we don't make. We don't know how to make it. We couldn't even make it if we wanted to, like railroad engines. We don't make them here anymore.
We lost the industry a long time ago.
Lost the knowledge, the know-how. Who knows, right? iPhones, whatever. We would lose all of that. And if we lose all of that suddenly, what happens next is we go from feeling like we hit a triple in terms of living standards to realizing we were actually born on third base, and that our trade deficit, our supremacy of the US dollar as a reserve currency, was the thing that allowed us to live beyond our means all those years. And so people got used to it. And when people get used to living on their means, it is total warfare when you suggest that maybe they should not just siphon off from other people. They get really mad when you stop the siphoning process. Pisses them off. They
really do.
That's what this is. That's what this is. That's what this is. These are people who are angry that they're going to have to go out and actually get a productive job at some point, and it scares them.
Well, it's people that are angry and then them manipulating useful idiots. the scores of people that are willing to just go into one of these places and burn somebody else's property.
I would submit to you that people who have really productive jobs that provide meaning and purpose are not the same people doing this.
I think you're right.
Just a guess.
Yeah.
Just a guess. But if you sort of squint at some of these photos, you're like, oh yeah, no, that's who we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the actual situation we have going on right now. So at any rate, there it is. That's our signal hour for today. And
right.
Thank you everybody for being here. Evie's got a, what do you got for us today? You got your thing. What you got?
I got two things. So let's see. There are two things. I like to sort of find a piece of writing that brings me back to earth in myself about what really matters and what is important to me beyond all of this, because of course this all does matter, what we've been discussing this whole time. Take it out?
Yeah, just take it
all
out.
Right.
It's distracting.
All right. It's distracting you, I think. Okay.
Yeah, squirrel. You know me.
So, anyhow, let me leave you with these two things. One is by Nietzsche, who says, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And then I've got one more. It says, love is not all. Love is not all. It is not meat nor drink, nor slumber, nor a roof against the rain, nor yet a floating spar to men that sink, and rise and sink and rise and sink again. Love cannot fill the thickened lung with breath, nor clean the blood, nor set the fractured bone. Yet many a man is making friends with death, even as I speak, for lack of love alone. It may well be that in a difficult hour, pinned down by pain and moaning for release, or nagged by want past resolution's power, I might be driven to sell your love for peace, or trade the memory of this night for food. It well may be. I do not think I would.
Thank you for that. And thank you everyone for being here today with the Signal Hour every Wednesday at 1:00. And of course, back at Peak Prosperity all week long. I'm a machine. I don't stop. Lots of content, lots of ideas, but please, 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 wherever you get to this idea, it's time to become resilient. You need to
plant a garden.
Make sure you understand what financial freedom really is. Make sure that you're not totally exposed to a dollar system where we don't even know what the denominator is.
Mm-hmm.
And do what you can to become mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually resilient, because these are going to be really turbulent times.
Mm-hmm.
Things are speeding up.
Find your people.
Find your people. So with that, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Bye, everyone.